There's a section of the book that I think really nicely puts it that I outlined here. And it says, your illness and suffering are uprooted from the core of your soul, wreaking havoc until you recognize it is your soul calling to you, an awakening and an unveiling of the treasured soul within, waiting to be remembered and shine bright in this world. And that really kind of showed the difference between healing and treating. Because in the beginning of the book, you illustrate you're in a hospital, or the character Isabel is in a hospital. Yes. And they're just giving her more pills, antibiotics. It was an infection. Here are more pills. Here's us treating the body. Something's wrong with it. We throw chemicals. We correct it, so to say. Healing is a transmutation, as you put it. Healing is not just mitigation of symptoms or managing disease or just making you feel a little better on the body surface level. It's a much deeper transmutation. And you said through that transmutation, you were able to connect further with divine wisdom. And I'd love to set up this space of, if someone's going through something right now, as we all are going through something, and we're all healing at all times. How do we tap into that more? Because you said it's not seeking, it is unveiling. And so many of us are seeking answers right now. We're going to gurus, we're going to social media, we're going to doctors and saying, please help me answer what is wrong with me. And you're saying that's not really correct. And I think my father and other doctors would say the same. We are not here to heal. You heal yourself. We assist you in the unveiling, but you must reach that yourself. So what would be your advice? And I know some of that was in the book, you go of that, but what would be your advice to someone trying to connect to that divine wisdom and trying to unveil the truth to themselves?
Well, first and foremost, like I said, it's a lot more simplistic than complex. So I know we're always looking for the most complex because we think that we'll be served in those areas greater than simplicity. And number one is the desire. So first of all, the desire to understand self, the true self. Our desire is the ammunition that can propel us to formulate thoughts around cultivating, I guess, truth within ourselves. I think that we're always in a little bit of a funk because our teaching has been incorrect. Our upbringing has misguided us. So majority of us are not even aware that we are these divine, powerful beings already, and not the other way around. So the second we tune into understanding that we are these divine, powerful the spiritual beings, or these spiritual energies, within the body, and the remembering and the awakening and the remembering is that we are this light. And the tuning into that is the desire to do so. So the desire, I had a profound desire for truth. I was so tired of misguidance, and I was so tired of the seeking process because it disabled me. I felt like an invalid all the time because I was always in the hands and the mercy of somebody else's word. So when I started to come back to myself, again, coming back to yourself is a very strong practice. And I know we're all doing it, but we're doing it in, again, a seeking way. So we're coming back to ourselves through breath, hyperventilating breath work. We're doing it by saying mantras and all of this, but we're still not being quiet. We're still not quiet. We have all these regimes around practicing silence. But again, it's a cultivated regime, and it is somebody else's guidance who's guiding us, which means that it could potentially work for a moment, but the only way that we're going to really tune into ourselves is when we hear ourselves, because our practices, which I say in the book as well, what has guided me might not guide you. But the ultimate thing that will open you up to an awareness is, number one, tuning into the idea that you are divine and that the power is yours. So not to relinquish power all the time, to practice silence and servitude towards yourself, to then towards humanity. But that doesn't mean signing up for another practice or another yoga guru and sitting in a class where everyone's minds and the collectives are going. And it's, again, you're being guided and instilled by somebody's opinions and the ways that they have been helped. And this is okay too, because that does work. But the true power comes into your own faceless presence within, because that is the expression, that is the individual expression in which you were here to manifest. So it cannot work for someone else the way it's going to work for you. And we're all tuned into this omnipresent, this divine reservoir, but through an individual like funnel or a tunnel that is the expression of self. So that becomes your own personal healing process. And again, in the book, I say this too. When we're tapped into this divine process, we're no longer healing, we're being. The essence and the functionality of healing is no longer needed because we are in our divinity, we're in our power. And in that power, in our divinity, it's perfected. We are perfected. That seed of life in which we're born is perfected, which means there are very few flaws in that. And the only thing that can temper with that is when we drop down into, the ego or the personality of self, as opposed to the essence of self. So tuning in to yourself as much as you can, relinquish from the power of other people just for a minute, and really even start asking questions. And you'll see you when you really tune into yourself and tune into your breath, just normal breath, breathe in, breathe out, and it'll obviously stimulate your central nervous system, which, like I say, it's literally a conductor for the light of our ascension, the ascension from the spine all the way up to the head. And all of the scripts and the stories of our past will, if, in the state of consciousness, you can understand that those are all symbologies. The 12 prophets, these are all symbologies of the ascension within ourselves. It's not exterior. God is not exterior. All these stories are not exterior. So it's about really coming inward and I used to start by asking a question to myself. Whatever question it was, I would write it down and I would sit with this question for a minute, do my breathing, and then let it go. And I would just really come into quietness. And it doesn't, again, it doesn't have to be this quietness like of a yogi or, a Buddha who's been in Tibet for, his whole life. Like, we put so much pressure on ourselves, even to be in silence. It's extraordinary what we do to ourselves. But sometimes I go sit with my back against a tree, a big tree on the grass, and ground down. And you can really feel the energy of nature. It's the returning to the nature of self. And when we do that, we're in a symbiotic process with the nature around us, and it speaks through us. I like to think that the ether in which we live, the air that we breathe, is the information that is inputted into ourselves that becomes transferred into ideas or divine inspirations, because we're all connected, and the energy that lives through us is there to receive. So, like I say, cultivating the practice of our creator side and this divinity is really, truly, number one, a desire for it, an ultimate desire. Every morning I wake up and I continue my practice, or I have certain sayings for me that work for me to connect to my divinity. And more so, it's not even an asking, it's a knowing. So it's a knowing, I am divine, I am spirit, I am creator here. And the divine perfected seed of life is alive and awakened within every aspect of my being. And I am in complete totality in my humanity, mind, body, soul, masculine, feminine, earth, air, fire, water, powers of the north, east, south, and the west within myself. And I am the container for this. And within that, you become the sphere of light that becomes impenetrable. We have very few holes where the outside can continue to penetrate that light.